Channel open. Hey everybody, welcome back to TrekContinuum. I'm Sheyne as always, and today we're going to be starting something new, a new series that we're going to be trying out here called Star Trek Gateways. Basically, what it is a series of questions that we'll start with myself today, and I'll be bringing in from time to time friends of mine who are Trek fans, from the recently initiated to the lifelong diehards, and everyone in between, and ask them 5 questions about their lives in Star Trek. Originally, I was going to call it My Trek, but I figured everyone loves the Guardian of Forever, Sitting on the Edge of Tomorrow, the Iconians, mysterious as they still are for the on-screen canon, and it might get more hits, so that's really why. So the 5 questions are as follows. What was your gateway to Star Trek? Introduction, first encounter. Second question is, what is your favorite Star Trek moments in your life? Third is, where do you feel the franchise at today? Positive, negative, or somewhere in between? Fourth question, where would you like to see the franchise go in the future? And the fifth question, overall, what does Star Trek mean for you? So let's start with me. If you haven't clicked off yet, thank you. My gateway to Star Trek. Simple. My mother. My late great mother. She was one of the original fans. She watched it in first run, 66 to 69, then watched it every night in syndication, and was at the first 2 conventions in New York where she waxed eloquent about meeting Shatner, Nimoy, Kelly, Doohan, Takei, Nichols, Koenig, Barrett, Whitney, Leonard, Roddenberry, all of them. She was a diehard fan and made sure that I knew since before I could walk, crawl, speak what Star Trek was. I literally cannot remember a time where Star Trek wasn't a huge part of my life. From a kid drawing picture books to one-man shows in my bedroom where I was Kirk and Spock and McCoy and Uhura and everybody. It's always been there, and I have my mother to thank for that. And thank you. What's my favorite Star Trek memory, though? This is a very personal one, and it may get me a little teary-eyed, so I apologize for the ugly cry face. In 2004, they announced that James Doohan was going to be making his final public appearance at a convention. He was in ill health, but he was getting a star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So it was going to be the final time all the surviving members of the cast, the original cast at that point, which is everyone but D. Kelly, would be together on stage. So I convinced my girlfriend at the time to go to LA. It was at the hotel, I believe it was a Hilton, that's part of the complex at Grauman's Chinese Theater on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And it was phenomenal. William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy were together on stage, and the rest of the cast were together. Whatever. And it was a great time, and got to see James Doohan. A couple of the moon landing astronauts were there. It was great, but the best part of it was the last day, almost at the very, very end of the convention. My girlfriend at the time is off doing something else, and I'm just looking at this table in the dealer's room, and I look up, and there, sitting there, is Majel Barrett Roddenberry, the First Lady of Star Trek. And I was quite taken aback for a moment, and then I just said to her, I was like, Miss Roddenberry, it's a pleasure to meet you. I just wanted to say that when I had no one and nothing, Star Trek was my friend. And what you and your husband created literally saved my life. So I just wanted to say thank you. And she didn't really say thank you. Yeah, that was pretty much it. And the tears in my eyes, she must have heard that in her life from very likely millions, literally millions of people, right? Because it's true for so many of us, is it not? But maybe because she was in her later years, and from what I understand, not in particularly good health herself, it seemed to strike a chord to have struck a chord, because my teary eyes led to her teary eyes, and her friend, handler, whoever it was, quickly saw that and ushered, Major, we have to go, off. But for that 30 seconds, whatever it was, I got to say thank you. As close as I ever could to saying it to Gene Roddenberry himself. And it's a memory I take with me everywhere I go. And I'm very thankful for that. All right, off the sappy shit onto a little more critical thinking. Where is the franchise at today? In my opinion, every day it's struggling. It's not in a good place. I think that STD is the absolute bottom of the barrel. It is lowbrow. It is borderline offensive in how superior it thinks that it is. The one thing it does right is, well, one thing it does right is having true inclusivity in the cast, especially by way of LGBTQ+. I am a strong ally of the LGBTQ+ community, and something that is severely overdue in Trek. Berman ran from it, and it should have been something that was out there 30 years ago. Before that, but especially when Star Trek came back and it was in its true glory in the Next Generation years. But, and D Space Nine should have said in the documentary, Garak should have came out to Bashir after The Wire. But that didn't happen. It's happening now. Hallelujah, finally. However, they don't do it in a way that I feel is true and genuine. They virtue signal to virtue signal. And well, I like that it's not made issue. No one's like, oh, he's gay in there. Oh, she's gay in there within the story. Thank God it's not that. They are accepted as part of the crew. That's very Star Trek. It's just a thing. That's just who they are. That's just their preference. It means nothing to who they are, but it means everything. But it means nothing in the sense of no one's going to say, oh, she's straight. He's straight. No one's going to say that in real life, and no one's going to say that someone's homosexual in real life in the 23rd century. And it shouldn't be said about at any point in any century. I digress. I do like that they incorporate that. That being said, I don't like when they do something and they virtue signal to say, look at us, look at all we're doing. Oh, look how great we are. And a certain segment of the population should be excluded from this. We're not making this show for you. No, Star Trek is for everyone. And finally, with having that representation, it can truly feel like it is representing and for everyone. And yet they do such a piss poor job of being sincere. I have issue with that. And overall, the acting skill on that show is especially from their lead, is bad. Just plain bad. The dialogue is atrocious. The stories are convoluted and childish. The action is piss poor. It just lacks sophistication and intelligence and subtlety. And it's everything Star Trek shouldn't. It's dumb. Same with JJ Trek. Some great moments, but it's dumb. That's effectively over with. And now we have STP. We have Star Trek Picard, which how I described in the opening of my very first video, the review for Remembrance. It's the best Star Trek we've had since Enterprise went off the air. Again, that's not saying much, and not to say that Enterprise wasn't brilliant in its last year. The exception of These Are the Voyages is pretty brilliant, but meaning it's a reflection on JJ Trek and STD. There are moments where it feels great, and they're doing and they're tackling things, and they're bringing back things that I wanted so bad in Trek for so many years. Yet it just it's lacking. It's cheap, and it has these people who are either on an ego trip, or think that they're writing cleverly, or hired, or coming up with stories that writers are going to craft in a clever, eloquent, wonderful way, and then these producers and showrunners that. All accounts, Michael Chabon is a great Star Trek fan, but he's gone now. And you have Kurtzman and Kirsten Bear and all these people who just, they seem to loathe Trek, and they seem to loathe lifelong Trek fans. And that's not how you're supposed to present it. You know, the rumor is Seth MacFarlane is looking to buy the rights with NBC. I don't put much stock into that. I think CBS is going to milk it for every penny it's worth for as long as they can. I wish that would happen. We shall see. But it would really be nice if it was in the hands of someone who understands and gets true Trek and has presented their own version of it. Or just someone who truly appreciates the fans and what Trek should be. So I feel that while there's hope, it's very minimal, especially for any time soon, and it's in a bad place. You know, and that kind of answers my second question, my fourth question. Where would you like to see the franchise go? I'd like to see it go and be put in the hands of someone, be it at Paramount or an outside entity, where it's truly in the hands of someone who understands it, loves it, and gets it, and can modernize it in a way that's respectful of what it has always been, and not make it feel alien to us, and not let anyone feel that they're being excluded. No one should be excluded in Trek. That is what makes Trek amazing. It is the greatest franchise in history. First interracial kiss, first truly integrated, diverse crew of equality. It inspired astronauts, physicists, scientists, technology, social movements. It changed the world. It deserves better. And I want to see it in the hands of someone who will push the envelope in an intelligent way and give us better. Trek deserves it. Finally, what does Star Trek mean to me? I mean, I guess this video kind of sums it up. It was my friend when I had none, as I'm sure it was, as I know it was for literally billions of others, millions of others. Maybe when you get to a billion, there's people who had more. But there was a segment of those billions, of those who just, they needed that friend. They needed that light at the end of the tunnel. That gateway to say, there's better out there. It gets better. And you're okay. Even if you don't see an exact representation of yourself on screen, Trek is for you. Trek is for all of us. And we can be better. Even in our darkest moments. It means everything to me. And while my life is beautiful now, and I'm very thankful for that, do I have a lot of money? No. And do I have a lot of love? Yeah. But I still get depressed sometimes. Don't we all? It's okay. And it's okay for Star Trek to be one of those, and for some of us, the only friend, companion, to be there in those dark times and say, you're all right. You are all right. And I got your back. Star Trek's always had my back. And I love it. You know, when Tony died at the end of Avengers Endgame, love it. Great scene, great movies. Thoroughly invested. But did I cry? Nah, I didn't grow up with it like that. There's a whole generation that grew up with it, and it was like when Spock died for them. People who don't get things because they didn't grow up with them, be it Star Wars or Avengers or whatever it may be, they spend enough time with Star Trek, they get it. They may not get it right away, but you sit with these characters and you pick which series you love the most, even if it's STD, and you sit with it and you love it, and it becomes something. It is the best franchise. It's just the best. Anyway, that is the first edition of Star Trek Gateways. I invite all of you to tell me how ugly my teary little cry face is, to tell me that's cool, my man, to say, hey, I got stories too. Let me come on. We can FaceTime, do whatever it is. You can just send in your answers to these 5 questions. Let's have a conversation. Let's debate. Let's in the internet, so we're not always going to be respectful. That's unfortunately the internet. But let's try to live by the ideals of Star Trek. Yeah, I love the ideals of Star Trek. Don't necessarily believe we're going to get there, but I'm just a jaded old fuck. So let's just have the conversation. Please like, maybe share, and please subscribe to the YouTube page. It helps the algorithm. New channel, trying to grow. Thank you for everyone who has watched so far. It's been pretty quick growth, very quickly, very early on, and the sky's the limit. So please be a part of this community. I love y'all. Live long and prosper. All the stuff people say, and just thank you. All right. End transmission.